my gosh.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me lean in. Let me lean in. Hi, you guys. Welcome to the Miles with Moms podcast, a podcast for moms chasing goals through all seasons of life. I'm Olivia.
I'm Shanna.
We are bringing you training tips, mom and expert interviews, and the kind of best friend banter that makes you feel like you're on a run with us. Whether it's your first 5K, your next marathon, or a stroller tempo, we've got your miles and your sanity. Since we're building a new platform, we'd really appreciate it if you can rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. Hello, mama. Yes.
Oh,
my gosh.
we were just laughing because we were talking about it before in the past, how we watch these videos back sometimes and we do the weirdest faces. And Olivia called me out. She said, every time I say a certain line on the beginning part, you're like, and so now I gotta keep it up.
She does like these head nods, but I was talking about how I lean forward every single time, like as if I'm going to tell a good secret. And then, like, I don't know why I do it, but it's every single episode I lean in and I cannot help it. I don't know. I get so nervous speaking publicly.
Or reading things off. I think that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
That's the worst part.
for sure. I even went to Reed and Grayson's classroom the other day, and I was so
You're like,
yeah, I was sweating, and so finally Grayson, he's like holding my hand. He was like, "Why is your hand so wet?" And I was like, "Grayson, I'm so nervous." And then, okay, there was just I read the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And it talks about the abominable snowman, snow monster so many times. And the word abominable, if you say it enough, it doesn't sound like a word anymore.
it's true.
So I was nervous. And then the chair like leaned back really far. And I was like, is this a nursing chair that someone donated to the class?
Stop.
So the way I was leaning, I was like, I was so nervous. And I know they're 5 and 6 years old, but you
I
know,
was about to say, I was like, you guys, they're kindergartners. They're kindergartners.
Yeah. Most importantly, I did that right when I got out of the car. And
That's true.
Yeah, I did not bring them I promised them candy canes and I did not deliver. And I mean, Grayson did overhype the candy canes a little bit too much, apparently. We were really upset that I didn't bring them. I could have been saying anything. I could have been speaking pure gibberish up there, and they were just like, but where's our treat? So, yeah,
It's
I
so
mean,
true.
either way, I messed up. Yeah.
That's so funny. I love it. Well, I think you're the everyday hero shout out because you did that drive from Arizona, got there in time to go and read to your kids' class like that same day. So props to you.
Thanks.
I would have been like, hey, sorry, I can't make it.
I know. If I had the opportunity for like anything else where it was like
Yeah.
helping with the like Christmas party or something, and I knew I was going to be in the classroom at any other point, I 100% would have been like, can I trade days with someone? And yeah, I had to stop and grab that book really quick too, because the
That's
book I was
crazy.
going to read someone else read the day before, like the week before. But
Sad.
I was like, I have to make this because he's also been talking about it so much. But
Yeah.
a big part is that Matt had gone to the classroom. And so everybody knows Matt. They're like, oh, firefighter, Grayson's dad. So cool. And so I was like, I want to go show up.
Hope
So,
you showed up with your medal around your neck.
oh my gosh, no. Grayson was like, he thought about it. He was like, can I show off your medal? And then I was like, yeah, for sure. And that was like the whole first part of the drive. Then we stopped, grabbed souvenirs because I'm
So cute.
yeah. And then he ended up wanting to show off his Arizona souvenir. And Matt's always like, why do you buy souvenirs? But I'm a huge like
No,
I
that's
love
cute.
a good
Was this
souvenir.
their first time being in Arizona or they've been before?
I think this is their first time. Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's like part of the memory.
I
I love
know.
that.
Too. I love it too. Yeah. Arizona was so I mean, there's so much to do. I'm
There
always
was.
blown away. Like There
Yeah.
was so much to
I
do there.
I didn't think that there was gonna be a lot. I was like, "Oh, Arizona." Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
anybody that's listening that's from Arizona, I apologize for I mean, literally, I live in St. George, okay? So, like, not much higher. But but, like, when I think of Arizona, I think, "Oh, similar terrain, deserty vibes." Like, we're not escaping very much anything different than what we see here,
Mhm.
other than maybe we see a little bit more cactuses from there.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my husband was obsessed with pointing out each cactus on the way down and the way back. He's like, "Look at that cactus, it's so big." And I was like, "How old are you? Are
Oh my
you
gosh.
5?"
Wait, that's actually kind of how
I'm
I
like,
was.
"What?" And then he's like, "It's a cactus." And I'm like, "Oh." That's why you
Yes.
interrupted me?
Oh my gosh. Well, when you get into that first part where it's like the quintessential, like really
It
cool
is
looking ones,
pretty.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then like the kids could not have cared less because they were like, we have cactus. And
Yeah,
yeah, but they don't look like that. These ones
they
look like they
don't.
have arms and
They
stuff.
do. They were pretty tall, like, pretty
Yeah.
massive. But yeah.
Yeah.
Olivia's like, "Wait, that was me." I was like, "Guys, look at the cactuses."
Ah, okay, after like 6 hours in the car with little ones, you're like, wow, that's so
Solo
cool.
too. Props. Another props to
Oh.
you. You did that solo.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
man. Well, I have our everyday hero shout out. It is by Brienne. She's shouting out her friend Paige Cosgrove. So she says, Paige Cosgrove is a total badass mom of two little girls, 2 and 5, a trauma nurse, and one of the most hardworking, caring, and determined women I know. She trained for the Indy Marathon while carrying the load of motherhood and a demanding career and still showed up every day with grit. Not only did she crush a 10-minute PR, she earned herself a Boston qualifier. Training alongside her and watching her chase her dreams has been incredibly inspiring. I can't wait to see her PR her half in the spring.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool. Congratulations, Paige, because doing that with the load that you're carrying as a working mom and you have two little kids, 5 and 2. I mean, that's like right up your boat. Like you have the
Mhm.
same ages and marathon training and qualifying for Boston in a 10-minute PR. Like,
That's
I
insane.
don't think that like we could praise her anymore for all of that. Like, she could have just said, I'm a mom 2 of 5 and I ran a marathon. I'd be like,
I
you're
know.
amazing. You
I
made it to the start line.
know.
But just, it's so cool to hear like people's dreams just come to life, and just exceed their expectation at a race.
Mhm.
So super awesome, Paige.
Yeah, congrats, that's amazing, and also to your friend for shouting you out,
Yeah.
because that's so cool. I was just talking to Shanna about that yesterday and just, like, what a unique experience it is when you do get to share not only, like, good friendship, but also a similar love for something like a hobby, and it it gives you so much more depth than just the trenches of motherhood. It's like that you get to also experience like being outside of the trenches and like coming out of it and coming to life a little bit more, especially because those like little kid ages, especially
Yeah.
anything 18 months, I feel like where it is hard to go certain places and you have to say no. And then also like working on top of it, it can feel like you're so busy, but being able to share that with someone else and being able to share those victories, and it's just so impactful and meaningful, and I don't know, there's something about having that friendship and being able to lift each other up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, seeing each other outside of just motherhood too, like as an athlete, I think
Mhm.
that's such a cool, unique. I can see my little, I'm like,
Oh, I see.
it's just such a cool, unique experience to be able to like have somebody that sees you like as a athlete and in your
Mhm.
goals through that because I feel like it just like individualizes you more as like a personal being versus
Mhm.
like this overshadow of a role of like, oh, she's a mom. Like, no,
Yep.
she's Paige Cosgrove and she's a mom.
Yes.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
It is. It's so cool. I love that. It's so exciting. Well, we tried to we're trying to do our race recap, and we've done it 1,000 times with each other.
Yeah.
Where, because we are in 1,000 group messages, and we're not gonna lie, we did try to record this yesterday, so we have done it out loud on a recording, but I think that There's probably just a lot of questions about Shanna racing pregnant that I know. She's like, "I don't wanna talk about myself," but what
I
you did
don't.
was spectacular. So, the reason we're talking about Arizona so much is, for anyone who doesn't know, is that we just ran the Phoenix Marathon on Saturday, December 13th, and it was the inaugural year, and Shanna did it while she was 16 weeks pregnant, and I'm excited because I hope this ages really well. Because in a year, if somebody's listening back to it, that it'll just be so fun because there she'll be able to listen to it or someone is listening to it and Shanna will have baby in her arms, and that's so cool. So I
Love.
just think about this, like, just talking about it, that it's also just a way of documenting it while it's fresh, you know? So, she did it while she's 16 weeks pregnant, and she was going for a sub 3, and she crushed it beyond words. So, anyway, you're like, "I hate this. Stop
I
talking about
know. I'm like,
me."
"This is so cringy. Stop talking about me." No, I'm just
I
kidding.
know. Listen,
Oh,
you
man.
spend a lot of time bragging other people up, and I think this is what I was saying. I was saying this to her yesterday. I was like, Shanna has a very special ability to make everybody feel very special and heard, and just for her to be able to also feel that same way, and because it I talk a lot about paces and that we're trying to take paces out of the
Mhm.
equation, and so I like what Shanna's done, by using her platform to talk about running at a high level while pregnant and just giving people permission and space to also feel like that's something that they can do if they're feeling good and enjoying it. And that we have had OBGYNs on and that have talked about that this is something that you can continue to do, that being pregnant is not something that's going to hinder you. And that's why I think it's so important that we talk about also your race experience on top of it, not just all the miles that you did beforehand. So, yeah. Do you wanna talk about your race recap again?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, starting off, like, what brought us to go run Phoenix, right? Because
Mhm,
it was the first year that this race was put on. It's not, like, a well-known race yet. It probably will be now this year because it seems like they had a pretty decent, like, turnout as far as, like, ambassadorship
mhm,
and presence, so that's really cool. I'm excited to see what next year will entail for that race.
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, like for me personally, Phoenix was not on my radar. Like Chicago was my goal race for the year. Olivia, she ran that race as well. And like going into like the last what was I like the last 6 weeks of the build? I
mhm,
can't even remember. I just had like a really strong feeling like something just kept feeling off during the whole build. And poor Olivia had heard me complain about it so many times, like something just doesn't feel right. I don't know why. I'm just not being able to get my head there. Like I was putting out good workouts. I didn't feel like I was being overtrained. I didn't feel burnt out. Like I just could not get in the marathon grind. And it was just like very weird. But I just, week after week, I just kept putting in the work. And then I had that really, really strong feeling that I needed to get pregnant. I called up Olivia and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know, like, if I should do this. And it's just so crazy, you guys, to look back where I'm at right now, like way in advance, and then back where I was then, and just why was I so afraid, to do this? But the unknown is always scary, right? And so when I pulled out of Chicago, I was pretty sad about it. I'm not going to lie. Like all of my good friends were going to Chicago, so many incredible moms. Like I was just like so excited to meet one day in person. And I was so stoked for all of them to be there and experience that, but also feeling the FOMO on the other end. Like, man, I wish I could be there. Even being there to like support you guys in person would have just been such a cool experience. But it wasn't right for like my family dynamic in the situation. I got pregnant, 2 weeks before Chicago, I think, somewhere in there. I can't remember. Maybe it was way before that, but and I honestly went back and forth. I was like, do I run a marathon? What marathon would I run? Would it be a CIM? Because it's like the only race I knew in December. And yeah, I had like a brand reach out to me. That was a total flop. Like they promised all these big elaborate things that I got super excited about marathon training again. That was like mid-November, I think. And then they ghosted me. and I was devastated. I literally, our poor coach, I had messaged him so many times. I'm like, all right, I'm back on the marathon grind. And then I'm like, never mind. I'm not on the and he's like, I need you to make up your mind. And so finally, this girl, one of the ambassadors, she talked about Phoenix with me because she was pivoting to Phoenix. And I was like, what is this race? Is this the Mesa race? Because every time I'd Google it, Mesa Marathon would come up. But that wasn't until like February or March or something like that. And so I was like, what race is this? And she's like, oh, it's the first year. And I was like, oh, what's the course look like? And, I saw the course. It was a pretty fair, honest course. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is doable. It's like a 5.5 hour drive from where we're at, right? And so, yeah, like signing, like it's like almost like it fell into my lap. And I was like, why would I not do this? So I put the fillers out with my husband and I was like, hey, what do you think about going to Arizona in December? And he was like, Arizona? He had the same reaction as me. He's like, what's in Arizona? And I was like, well, there's Sedona and that's beautiful. And I was like, but we'll be at Phoenix. And he's like, what? He's like, why are we going to Phoenix, Arizona? What race are you looking at? And anyways, and finally he was just like, you know what? He's like, you worked so hard since May. You deserve this. And I needed him to say that because I feel like I was like, should I spend this money on this race, even though it's a lot cheaper it's December, I can pour that money into my kids' Christmas. And yeah, I was just grateful that he was just all on board on it. But I'm curious, like, what made you, I guess I kind of know, but I'm gonna pretend like I don't. What made you run Phoenix? Because it is a random race, like to just go
Is.
to especially after Chicago, like a huge marathon.
Yeah. It was on my radar because I had gotten an email from them, like, back when they announced it, and so I knew about it, and, but with Chicago happening, and then so I got my C goal at Chicago, PR, super happy about it, but also very mixed emotions. You know, it's hard leaving a race also that is like Chicago because when you have like the time of your life, you're like, oh, when will I ever experience anything like this ever again? And also it's a flat course, so there's not a lot of soreness that happens after, which makes someone like me ping immediately. And I'm like, do I still have the speed to do this again? And so I'd already told my cousin I was pacing her for that Las Vegas marathon, and so I didn't run really up until that. It was, I think, 2 weeks exactly after Chicago, and so 6 weeks from Phoenix. And they changed the course for that Las Vegas marathon, and I had looked at Houston, but Houston was sold out and things like that.
Oh,
So
sad.
I know, and so I would have had a little bit more time before that race. And I would have made that a day trip. I would have just been like, okay, fly
Yeah.
out, get my bib, run Houston, fly home. And, my husband, he was like, I don't know if that would be a good idea. But a lot of it is also from the standpoint of like how hard this is on my body and like the big picture. And, that realistically, like, it's not just running the race, it's the logistics that go with it. The children, am I bringing them? Am I not bringing them? And like the emotional impact of when I don't bring them. Because that is something that I can't tell if it's a good or a bad thing when I
Yeah.
have them with me. Um, and so I was going to pace this Las Vegas marathon and they had changed the course. So when they changed the course for it, it made it significantly different. It went from like a 1,000-foot drop to a 5,000-foot drop. And so people were really mad about it. So they offered either race deferral to a different race or if you run the race that you get a free race through that company after. And it was like they only gave you an option for like 5 races. It was like Portland Marathon, Phoenix Marathon, I don't know.
That's
I
cool.
think there were a couple of Revel runs maybe, but like St. George wasn't one of them or anything like that. But so I was like, oh, Phoenix Marathon, boom, radar. I was like, well, Shanna's running that one, and I knew I was going to go into half marathon builds after.
Yeah.
And so I was like, do I do this as a half marathon and have like a baseline half marathon to start with? Like this was my best effort for that day, but no, I still had that. I still have my A goal on my mind. And well, more like my B goal on my mind for this year for 2025. And so I messaged our coach and he was like, it's a 50-50 shot. You know, you can try it. We'll do this kind of very short little build. And he was like, it might go really well. It might not. And also it'll be interesting to see what your body can handle. And so, um, you know, it was I had talked to him a little bit about it of like, is this a good idea? Is it a bad idea? And like for me, I've talked about it quite a bit. Like endurance is not an issue for me so much. Like running 26.2 miles isn't the scariest part of
Mhm.
it. It's goal paces that becomes really scary for me. And
Because this was marathon what?
so this one was marathon
Oh,
number 12,
okay.
including pacing. And
Yeah.
like so,
So a good
you know,
amount of experience in that distance.
yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing, that's the cool thing about having done like this many marathons now is like the distance becomes so much less scary,
Yeah.
never less impactful though. And
Yeah.
that's like we can talk about that more, but yeah, it was just that was how that came on my radar. I was like, well, Shanna's going to be there anyways. This would be so fun. Like towing a line together is so exciting and just knowing that someone you know is there too
Yeah.
makes things really fun. It just does. It changes the game a little bit of like, oh, I wonder how they're doing in the race, or like at least being there at the start and being like, oh, are you nervous? Like it really does make it more fun. And so I think that added to it, like, okay, we'll both be there. She'll be there with her kids, same boat. I'll bring my kids. And yeah, just a matter of finding childcare. So I was like, hey, mom,
I
you want
love
to go to
that.
Phoenix? She was like, what's in Phoenix? But sure.
You're like, "Good wine. You want some wine? I will
Yeah.
bribe you."
I was like, "All the wine is on me if you come join me in Phoenix."
I thought that was so cool that she was like, "Heck yeah, I'll
Yeah.
come right on out."
Yep.
But I totally agree with you. I can't tell you guys how much it meant to me to have Olivia sign up for this race because I was like extra motivated. Like I feel like knowing that like my good friend was running the same race and we were kind of like in the same trenches of marathon build, even though our cycle was like off. Olivia was like building back mileage or like time back on feet, and then she had a very very short block, which you got gypped from, which we'll talk about that. She got gypped from being able to do like her peak weeks, which was like only 3 weeks. 3 week
Mhm.
build, you guys.
I
Like
know.
that's like the amount of stress I would have, like my type A personality be like, ah! But I know in that moment, like I have like my other friend, she's pregnant. So we couldn't like I couldn't really run with her. She was kind of like in and out of running. And then like I have another friend, she's coming back to running. And so she was kind of still in a different phase of fitness. And then another friend who was like trying to get out of the postpartum injury stuff. And I just felt kind of isolated for a second. I was like, sad, nobody's marathon training right now. But when Olivia was like, I'm gonna do it, I'm like, oh my gosh. It just feels so good to know that somebody else is in that grind with you and you're like kind of both struggling or like going through the grind
Mhm.
together, even though they're different workouts and different points. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, talking about that, so leading up marathon build wise, I'll talk a little bit about how my marathon build went, and then you could talk about how yours went because polar opposites again. Like I feel like our whole
Yes.
experience, even with the trip, was just so polar opposites in so many
Yep.
ways, right?
Mhm.
But I know like for me, so building up, like I haven't been building up since May. Like our coach had us do a lot of 10-miler runs. This is before I was pregnant. And so I feel like he built a really strong aerobic foundation for us that like truly did set me up for the best success possible in my pregnancy. Like I
Yeah.
look back, I'm like, wow, like what a divine way that all
Yeah.
came to be. Like very inspired how it all happened because I could have like been coming off of like a off season and been pregnant and then that would have been rough, but for whatever reason like everything just kind of aligned really nicely. And so by the time I made this switch over to Phoenix, I had been marathon training for like 5 months, 6 months at this point. I don't even know. I lost track.
That's
You
crazy.
guys could do the math, but I just remember feeling like I had done at that point so many 2.5 hour runs, 2 hour, 45-minute runs, so many 10 milers at like six range for like mile splits that I was like, why would I not go do this? Like, I'm in marathon shape, even though the paces are getting a little bit slower, but not by much. And so, yeah, the build went really, really well. Like, for the most part, like, I did have the normal typical nausea the first, like, trimester, but for the most part, I feel like the running almost helped because it
Mhm.
forced me to eat. Like, I had to eat, otherwise I could not get through the run.
Mhm.
Even easy runs, like, I would feel, like, lightheaded and fatigue and, like a sugar crash almost. So I ate on every single these dang gels are, like, found
Yeah.
all over they're, like, tucked in my nightstand, they're tucked on my desk, they're in my glove box because I literally just, like, I ate them all the time,
Mhm.
like, I took them on a 5-mile run and would eat them on 2.5 miles in, like, I things I normally don't do when I'm not pregnant, and it's not because I'm anti-fueling, it's just, like, a 5-mile run would when I'm not pregnant, it takes me, like, 40 minutes, like so anyway, that like I think it did help me a lot like get through that first that first trimester experience because I just felt like I was so focused on this goal that
Mhm.
like I couldn't really sit in like how much the first trimester sucks. I was
Yeah.
just like so consumed in that and then my children that I like never really had time to like process the fact that I'm pregnant. My stomach is growing. I feel like shiz. And it just, like, it never really caught up to me. And then as far as, like, establishing my goal, it was like I had this goal in mind to run a sub 3, and it wasn't because of the accolade of sub 3. I think there's a lot of, like, I don't know, like, accolade around getting under that barrier that, like, is very prestigious and blah, 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 and I think it is. I think it's a big deal, but I also don't think it changes anything. Like, me having if I would've went out there and ran a 3:05, 3:10, 3:15, I will honestly tell you guys I would've been just as happy
Yeah.
because just the fact that I got to toe a line and got to run it and got to experience the 26 miles, that's all I wanted. Like, that's
Mhm.
truly at the end of the day, that's all I wanted to experience to know, like, what does it feel like to do this pregnant? Like, I
Mhm.
wanna know. I wanna know what these moms went through at 28 weeks, at 36 weeks, pregnant, running this distance. Like, I wanna feel that for myself. And so I just wanna make that clear. But for me, going into the build, because I was like a low 240 shape prior to pregnancy, like it made very complete sense to
Mhm.
go for a higher sub 3. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it was something insane. And so I really want to mention that because I think there's a lot of like, wow, how did she do that? But it's like when you have that buffer of like where your actual fitness was prior to pregnancy and where it is now, it's not unheard of. Like that's pretty common goal. Like it's like anybody else running, they're a 2:58 marathoner and they're going for a 3:10, right?
Mhm.
That's pretty similar comparable and that's still very impressive.
Mhm.
But I think people just forget where my fitness was prior. So, anyways, that was like the reason why I went into it. I was like, this sounds pretty reasonable. My marathon pace feels like it's in the 6:30s range. Throughout my whole build, I felt pretty comfortable and confident with that. Didn't feel like it was too aggressive. But yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
You want to talk about your build because I just like am still mind blown that you had those weeks where
I know,
you
it's so crazy.
couldn't do anything. Like,
Yeah. So also really quick with your build, you also opted for sleep quite often and did treadmill workouts. That was a huge part of it. You had a lot of data and ability to control your environment. I think that was a huge part of knowing like where you would stand. That was a big part. And just that also for your long runs, you would wake up an hour before and get like a really good meal in.
yeah,
And on top of that, fueling. I feel like anything that you were doing like 7 miles plus, you were just like really on it with your fueling. Like, I
yeah.
mean, I know for a fact you took one at like 1.5 miles one time when we were running together. It was like an easy run too.
I know.
And it's funny because I remember being like, oh my gosh, we've been out here forever. But it was just because you took that gel so early. And yeah, but I'm just like that how much you stayed on top of it. And also that like when everybody sees your post and you're like sub 3 hour pregnant, I think that like when you and I would have conversations, everything it was never like I just can't wait to run this sub 3 hour marathon. It
Yeah,
was always I can't wait to run a marathon pregnant. Like
yeah,
period. That was all it was. Like you were so excited to just do it pregnant and Also, because it was set like, when we were talking about it, it was so cool to think about that you have been pregnant 5 times before. Like, you are you are the mother, and that this was still something new to you. And I think that's fun to hear because you've just had so much experience with running, with pregnancy in 2 separate areas, but being able to put those together was, like, just really special. I think it was super special for you, but it was so special to actually hear about, just because like, you've had so many pregnancies, and so you've been able to experience so many things that so many people have, and that's why I think it was just so important to share so much of your journey with this, and it was so cool, but, yeah, with my build, so I had this okay, if anybody doesn't know, I decided to go to the crypt and get my
The
old
crypt.
shoes that somehow made it through all these moves. No, I had these shoes that, like, they are pretty minimalistic, I feel like, so it's very hard to tell when they are actually dead. So I was like, "Oh, I could get a few more miles out of these." Like, my build is so small. I have, like, 3 weeks, and I was like, "I'll get just enough easy miles out of these shoes." These shoes, they have like a lip on the tongue and it sits right on my bone in my foot.
Awful.
And it's just like it's so crazy how this even happened. So I've had it before. It's just like a little bump that formed on the top of my foot. It's a cyst and it happened again, but it was like so much in a different spot. Like it was just like millimeters over,
Yeah.
but it was right on a bunch of nerves, and it also pointed out that I have a ton of scar tissue under that and in that area. So all of a sudden I had all this foot pain, and I was wholeheartedly convinced that this wasn't even a stress fracture. I've had a stress fracture from dancing before, and this felt like I was walking on a full-on break. Like
Oh
I
gosh.
was hobbling around like out like I couldn't walk basically. Like my son was doing something really stupid the other day, and I couldn't even run towards him.
Yeah.
Limping, like it was so bad. I was like, Stay right there. I'm coming." And I was just so slow, like walking so slow, just hobbling over to him. And so the day after Thanksgiving, because I had gotten imaging on it, and I was in so much pain but it didn't hurt while I was running. It only hurt while I walked,
Yeah.
stood, like, did weights, like, because I do a lot of, like, one-legged,
Yeah.
like, deadlifts and things like that, and so it would hurt then, and so I was like, "This has to be a break," and it's just going away because of the adrenaline when I'm running. And anyway, when I ended up getting, like, multiple different kinds of imaging, so I ended up getting it ultrasounded, and there was nothing that was showing a fracture, the X-ray, nothing, and I was like, "Okay, I guess we're we're good." Anyway,
Let alone she was not even given pain meds, you guys, like,
yeah,
not even over the counter pain meds, like 800 milligrams ibuprofen. She was
yeah.
just like, "You'll be fine." Like,
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, if a
what?
heating pad good." So I was like so I go to grab a heating pad,
Yeah.
and because the ice made it worse. Like, that's what, was so crazy. So, I mean, like, this pain was nauseating. It was just so crazy how bad it got so fast.
Yeah.
And, at first I didn't mention anything because I was like, "Oh, everybody's gonna be like, it's because 'cause you're overtraining." But
Mhm.
no, it's just because I am so cheap, I will not buy new shoes. And
Yes.
that's just the truth. And, so I started changing my shoes. Oh, so I got my heating pad, changed out of those shoes, obviously, like, a week prior, and I noticed, like, there were better days and worse days, and it depended, like, what I was wearing, and, I got, like, the the arthritis cream, and I was like, "I am just such an old lady," and the I like, it was right next to the heating pad, and it said, like, "For inflammation," and I was like, "Well, I have a
Yeah.
bunch of scar tissue. I should try it," and I'm so glad that I did
It's
because
crazy.
the ibuprofen, it was just so inflamed, like, that was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So, the pain didn't completely go away. I mean, it's been a month now, and now it's finally dissipating. Like, I still am like, I'll take steps all the time, or I'll put on, like, a pair of slippers, and it hit my nerves, and I'm like, "Ah, it hurts so much." but,
Yeah.
like, my like, the bump is gone, my friendly little bump, and it was crazy. So, that all happened, though. I had a peak week of training that was, like it was, like, speed work or, like, easy run, but with mileage, and our coach doesn't often give me mileage, like, it's
Mhm.
mostly time-based, so 60 minutes, 70 minutes, 80 minutes, that kind of thing, and so it was, like, 9 miles, then a warm-up and a 10-mile run, and then an easy 60, and then speed workout, and then easy, and then a long run speed workout, so this is clearly a peak week
Yeah.
workout, like, we're in it. And I skipped all of my speed work, and I ended up doing that 22-mile run, but I had to skip my speed work during that. I ended up, like, running on we were on vacation, so I ran on the beach, so, like, it alleviated a lot of impact that I had because I was running on the treadmill for part of it. Anyways, I was in so much pain, and then I had to back off the week. I think I biked for 5 days straight, and I love biking. I do. I have a Peloton. I love it, but not when I'm in marathon training. It is
Yeah.
frustrating. It is mentally
Mhm.
very taxing because 'cause you're just like, "Is this even doing anything? Is this even doing anything?" You know? And then, of course, everybody's all about the Stairmaster right now, and people are like, "Oh, well, it doesn't hurt. Get on the Stairmaster." And I'm like, I can't take steps on a Stairmaster, and I'm not gonna hop
Yeah.
on that. I don't have 6 hours a day to do that, to make up for anything, you know? So, it was I really was super, super stressed, and I'm thinking, "Do I dial it back? Do I go half marathon? Do I not do this at all?" But then my mom, she was like, "Well, I'll still come out there." And I'm like, "Well, I don't wanna drive 6.5 hours and then not run." So, I was like, "You know what? Even if I don't end up racing it, I'm going to run it. If it takes me 4 hours, it takes me 4 hours, like, whatever it takes, I'm going to just go do it." Because
Mhm.
I knew that my foot, it didn't hurt while I ran. Nothing I was doing was making it worse. It just was what it was. And so I was like, "That's how I'm gonna treat this." But then as I started feeling better, my speed workouts were still kinda there, and I wasn't hitting my exact paces, but I was like, "I can get it back." So, anyways, it was just the most imperfect build, and if it had just been a week, I don't think it would have impacted my race as much,
Yeah.
but it was a total of about 3 weeks
Mhm.
that I was
At the most important part of your build too. Yeah.
exactly. Yep. So I think because if somebody came to me and they were like, "Oh, I have to take a week off. I just want to see what is going on with my foot." I'd be like, "No worries. It will not
Mhm.
impact your build at all." But because of it already being a very short build and it was a total of half of it actually, about 3 weeks of it, that it did impact my build enough for, I think, just also confidence level, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing the data fully match up, like, I was so tuned up for Chicago that I
Mhm.
was not tuned up for with this one, and I was like, "This could be a good or a bad thing." I think that when things are a little bit more messy, it helps you let go of your ego, and I think part of me needed that. I think I needed to let go of any ego going into this, and like I said, I was like, "I'm gonna give it my best shot until I can't anymore."
Yeah.
And so it was just it was such a different race approach than being so dialed in for Chicago. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like a machine, and even though I didn't get my eagle that day, like, I was a different runner than I'd ever been that day.
Mhm.
But but I still carried that into this race.
Yes.
So, you know.
I think it speaks volumes of just like that you don't have to have the perfect build to show up for a
Mhm.
race. Like, and let's make this very clear, you guys. Like, she wasn't like advised to not run or anything. Like, the people that she went and saw, they were like, you can run on this. And she's
Yes.
like, I would if it didn't hurt. But
Yeah.
like, she was told by doctors, like, she could run on it. It was just a cyst. It just may be uncomfortable or painful.
Mhm.
And so to keep that in mind, like this wasn't like a stress fracture that she was gonna go out and run on or something
Yeah.
severe that like you should not be running on or being advised not to run on. This was something that she was told that you could actually run through this if you wanted to, or you can bear through it and you'll be fine. It's not gonna cause anything. So I just think there says a lot about you as a runner and just the amount of commitment you promise to yourself to go out and see it through, regardless of what the build looked like, how you felt confident wise. Like you still put yourself on that start line. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. Like I think anyone that's listening, because we're not gonna always have the perfect build. Like, we
Mhm.
may get sick, like, weeks leading up to the race. You may start your period on day 1 of your race and you'd be like, "Oh, F this, like, I feel like shiz." But you're gonna still go show up. Like, you don't have to show up for a race only when you're for sure that you're gonna be in marathon or in PR shape.
Yeah.
Because is it ever guaranteed? Like, you went into Chicago, you were a machine. I did some of those workouts with you that you were hitting 620s, like just dropping them like left and right. And I was like, "Who is this girl?" Like, she is I'm not gonna be able to keep up with her very much longer. She's just getting so fast. And it's crazy, like, how
She's so cute.
my little just popping her head in.
No, she's so
Um, how crazy it is, like, how you chose to still see it through when you could have been like, "You know what? I'm not in PR shape. I'm gonna pull out."
Mhm.
Instead, you were like, "No, you know what? I have a free bib. My mom's coming. My kids are gonna come. They're gonna love the trip because they're gonna see us vacation. Why not? Why not just go do it and see what I got?" You know? So
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I really hope that anybody that's listening leans into that and knows that, like, hey, you can show up for a race still, even if you're not in PR shape. Like, you
Yeah.
don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe anybody any expectation. You don't owe them any time. You don't owe them any promises. Like, it's for you. Like,
Yep.
and I know, like, your outcome, we're gonna talk about that, like, what that was like and, like, kind of the emotions you went through it, which I think is gonna be very beneficial for our audience to hear because I know you're not alone on this experience, but that, like, you still did it and you still crossed that finish line, and sometimes those are the best races because you learn so much about yourself mentally. Like, I feel like you
Yes.
walk away like, "Oh my gosh, if I can do that and I was in the mental grind at mile 12, then holy crap, I can do this on mile 18 if I'm feeling great," you know?
Yes. Yep.
So
I really had to think about one, I had to think about what like, with my foot, the of course, when before I had an image and I was talking to you about it, I was like, if it's a fracture, I'm like, there's no running through that kind of pain. Anything like, because at the end of the day, this sport is about longevity. So, of course, that's what it was. But when it was like so unalarming to every doctor I talked to, and like they were just so like, meh. And I was
I
like,
know.
I'm in so much pain. How is it possible? And but that like lackadaisical approach from them is actually it was such a good sign that I was like, you know what? This is on me. And honestly, I was actually hoping that the cyst would just rupture while I was running. I was like,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm putting enough pressure on it and stuff because there's little tests that they do right from the get go that they'll let you know if is signs of a stress fracture. But of course, as a runner, that's like the first thing that we always go to. But once the pains are getting better, and I was thinking about like my race approach, I was thinking about what if a friend was telling me this situation, what would I tell them? And I would never be like, "Hey, you should probably not do it if you're not gonna PR."
Yeah.
I would never say that.
So
I'd be like,
true.
"Just go and have a great time, like, you love to run." And even mid-race, that's what I told myself. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you love to run, you love to race." Like, at the end of the day, a race environment, especially for us here, I feel like is so unique. Like, I feel like we just don't race a ton,
Mhm.
and hopefully that'll be changing next year a little bit, but, I like, the only time that I've towed any lines this year, start lines, was for marathons,
Yeah,
and
it's
so I was like,
crazy.
"Just go and enjoy this," like, yeah, and I would never tell a friend that, "Oh, well, you're not gonna PR, so, like, you should probably sit this one out or change to the half." So yeah, I think it was just I was really scared also, like, if I shared too much about my foot that people were
Mhm.
going to be like, "Well, why is she running through an injury?" When really this wasn't an injury. I mean, I was hurt. I was hurting. I wasn't actually hurt. My foot just
Yeah.
was so angry at me.
No, it's so true. It's hard to be, like, very transparent in those situations or in those moments, like, because of the backlash. Like,
Yeah.
people have very preconceived ways. I mean, when I had my Achilles flare up, I was told the same thing. "You
Mhm.
actually could run through this. It just might be a little painful, and you just
Yeah.
gotta be a little smart about it, but we gotta adjust the intensity, that's about it, but
Yeah.
it's not a volume issue, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
I can run through this?" You know? And so
Yeah.
it's just it's like why we can't judge people, like, we don't know what they're being told behind closed doors, and
Exactly.
so I
Yep.
don't blame you for, like, honestly, like, navigating that how you did.
Yeah. I was so scared. It's so funny. I was preparing because I went with my kids to get my X-rays and stuff, and I was like, "Okay, just if you're gonna cry, just do it, like, really, don't be hysterical about it," and I was, like, prepared to walk out of this doctor's office with a boot, and when he was
Yeah.
just like, "Nah, like, nothing really we can do about it." I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Are you gonna send, the ibuprofen over to Smith's or whatever?" And he was like, "No, I don't think you really need that." And I was like, "God, I'm so mad."
I would be so mad too. I'd be like, "No, I'm paying you this much to see you, so I'm gonna at least walk out of here with 800 milligrams of ibuprofen."
Yeah. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then, who knew just some over-the-counter arthritis cream, which is funny because I have a high pain tolerance. Like, I have
You
a
do have a
good.
high pain. Yeah,
Yeah, and so just for it to have been arthritis cream that
I
helped is
know.
oh my gosh, it just makes me laugh so hard because every time I see it, I'm like, "I am just such an old lady." But anyways, so, okay, for your race, can you talk about a little bit how you felt during it and even just, because I know that you were worried about how much your pelvis was going to hurt, your pelvic
Yeah.
floor, all of that. So, did you notice it at all during the race, or did
Yeah,
you
I
feel.
mean I mean, yeah, like, going into it, like, during my build, like, I was pretty like, my pelvic was pretty tender after long runs, like, anything above sorry, guys, my little is, like, using the bathroom behind me, so if you hear a toilet flush, that's why.
Atta girl.
I'm like, "Good timing."
Yeah.
It's not me. I'm, like, sitting on a toilet.
That was practically me yesterday.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like going into the build, like I did have pelvic tenderness. I was very open and honest about that my entire experience because I never wanted to sugarcoat anything or make it seem like, oh, everything is fine and dandy. Like I really truly wanted to walk people through my experience of being pregnant and what that looked like and how things shifted. I remember there was one run my coach had given me. It was a 22 miler. It was my last 22 miler. And I should have stopped at 18 to be fully transparent. I should have stopped at 18 and just known I had plenty of long runs under my belt at that point to be totally fine. But when you get a 22 miler on the docket, you're like, I am so excited. I can't wait to run this. And I had like faster pace, like faster heart rate efforts. So a lot
Mhm.
of my training had shifted to heart rate effort at this point because I mean, he's a male coach and he's only coached 2 pregnant women before me, and though he had a good idea of what to do, he still was kind of hesitant and like, "How are you feeling? How did you feel after that?" Like, he would ask me almost immediately after every long run, "How did you feel?" I'm like, "I'm good." Like, "We're
Oh,
fine."
that's so
But,
nice.
so he was very on edge about it because he wanted to be very safe, and I remember just going into this run and I'm like, I don't even have fast paces in me today. Like I just feel like this is all I have is this like middle 7 range. And I'm just going to roll with that. This feels like it's enough of an effort. And I got to mile 18 and my pelvic was so sore. It just felt like my hips, my lower back, everything just kind of hurt. And I was like, am I going to be able to make 26.2 miles? And, I realized after talking to my strength coach, because I had swapped over to pregnancy strength training, she was like, "Do you think it's a volume thing versus an intensity thing?" And I was like, "You're probably right." So I brought down my mileage towards the end of my build, and I could feel a significant difference just from going from that 70 range to that 50 range.
Mm.
And it was like all of a sudden that alleviated feeling of like not feeling that tenderness so often. It was more just only at the end of a long run, which is pretty normal. Even when you're not pregnant, you're going to have some soreness. Like that's very
Mhm.
normal. But so yeah, like going into my race, I had multiple bathroom stops on my long runs. None of them were like no elapsed time, which is what I normally do when I'm not, because I like to like simulate the race. But in my pregnancy, I would stop like once at least,
Yeah.
at least one time. And so going into this race, I was like, "Oh no, like I'm gonna have a bathroom stop. And it's gonna be at like mile 18 where it sucks the most to start back up." And I was like, and I'm gonna have pelvic tenderness, and I'm gonna stop and have to use the bathroom and feel that pelvic tenderness and have to get back out there. And so I just really went into this like fully like aware of like what my circumstance could be, and holy crap, you guys, like it exceeded my expectations. Like to say like how grateful I am for this baby, for my body to not have made me have to stop, like means so much more than like my finish time. Like I am just like in awe that I was able to do that. Like I never want like I feel like I had to pee, but like it was not like, oh, you have to
Yeah.
go to the bathroom. I was like, if I have to go to the bathroom, it's because I have to go to the bathroom. Not because I have to pee. And so
Yep.
I didn't really feel like any of that. Like during my race, I didn't feel pelvic tenderness at all. It was mainly just my right calf, like it cramped up, and I think that was just a little bit of dehydration. I wasn't getting enough water that as probably as much as I should have.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, for everything else, I just felt bigger out there. That's it. That was
That's
the only thing. I just felt like I had a belly on me. But
that's
yeah, I mean, I felt great. You know, we towed the line together.
Mhm.
Olivia took off, which I want her to talk about her first half of her race first. Um, and I got to watch her from behind, and I was just in awe of her stride because we've been training together for multiple seasons now, and just seeing your shift in form mechanic and like your confidence to like she took out with these group of men, you guys. Like she was like, I'm not intimidated. I'm gonna go take out the fact that like we were like very like there's hardly any females on the start of the line, which was kind of hilarious because Olivia and I had both applied for the elite group program because yeah, we're like we might as well give ourselves a shot. It's the first year. And they were like, "Oh no, we're not accepting anybody that's not a 240 and below." And we're like, "Who is showing up to this race running a 240?" Like, it's the first year they're putting it on. And of course, there wasn't anybody. The person that won the race won it in a 245, which is still
Yep.
fantastic, but it wasn't a 240. So the representation of females was very, very small. So when we got to the start line, we kind of moved our way up to the front. And then I was like, well, I don't want to be in front of these women if they're going for a 240 and below. So we had
Yeah.
asked them and they were like, oh, we're shooting for like a 255. And I was like, oh, perfect. Like we'll just tuck
Mhm.
right here. But Olivia took off. I sat back with this group and they truly did carry me through the first like 7 to 8-ish miles. We just kind of like talked back and forth, banter back and forth, got to know each other, which was really fun. The first seven it's like a 1.5% decline. So you're losing about like 20 feet per mile. It feels pretty nice. Like it's like a
Mhm.
nice little steady decline. And I remember just thinking at mile 6, I'm like, "Are we still going downhill?" And then one person was like, "No, we're not going downhill." And the other person was like, "Yeah, it feels like we're still going downhill." And so we were like, kind of like discussing, were we really going downhill still? But yeah, it was fun. It distracted me. Like that first 7 miles flew by for me.
Mhm.
And then the 8 to 13, that's where it flattened out and we got on that aqueduct. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, like what was your experience like going through your head when you towed the line and you took off with that group? Like what was your game plan going into that? And how did you feel those first like 13 miles? And yeah, I'm just curious, like your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt great like the morning of the race, but I will say during my last couple of speed workouts, I noticed that instead of like where Chicago, I was riding like 626 to 631-ish and in that heart rate range. I was more like 636 to 640 this time. And so I was like, "Oh, that could just be fatigue. It could be so many things cuz I don't take my actual workouts as like Bible for what
Yeah.
I'm going to do on race day." So it's like more just about the effort and because I do know how different I feel on race day. But usually when I go out on those first 6, I give myself such a chance to like bank a little bit of time and also like pull myself back and really settle in and like I always think of the first 6 as just like in like that it's almost like it doesn't even happen, you know, because it just goes by. Those first 6 always go by so fast for me in a race. And But when I noticed that I was like 6:36, like I think the first 4 miles I was exactly 6:36 and I
That's
was like,
awesome.
it was like it's so satisfying to see like a exact even number the whole time. But I was like, "Oh, it's weird that it can't dig any deeper and that we're not going faster," because I like the road felt so nice, but like I was talking to the guy next to me and, we're just like bantering a little bit and yeah, it was just so funny. I was like, that's so weird that I'm not in the 6:20s, just especially for those first few miles, like while I'm settling into my pace. And that's why I went out right away. I was like, if you're going to run fast, you got to do it right now because I always positive split a race. And so I knew that also that those last few miles would be much more hilly. I knew that there was going to be that giant mile or that giant hill at mile 23, 24. And I knew that was going to be alarming for my body no matter what. So
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, just go out at this pace for as long as you can," but I was planning to treat it almost more like a workout where I was gonna hit those, like, 6:26 to 6:28 for that part, and then I wanted to slow into the 6:35, 6:38 range, and it was just like I could tell my body was not going to do that, and, for a while there, I was in 2nd place female, and people kept yelling it at me, and I was like I didn't like it, it was too much pressure. It made me
Yeah.
feel super anxious, and I was like and the guy next to me, he kept saying it, and I was like, "It is way too early to be saying that." It makes me feel like I am gonna let someone down if I'm not gonna stay 2nd place female 'cause and that's the only place that it would ever sink in as, like, imposter syndrome, like, I never felt like, "Oh, that doesn't belong to me." I just felt like this is too early to be saying that. The marathon is just such a tricky distance. You have so much time that so much can happen, and I had so many different race plans. I was like, you know, 8 miles at this pace, or if I can, then to do it for 10 miles. And so those first 10 miles, though, it just felt so good. And it was so fun. It was like, I feel like when I'm on vacation, I never really do speed workouts. So it was kind of
Yeah.
cool to just go and do like a speed workout on vacation, is what it felt like. But it was awesome, especially because that course has never been run in a race before.
Mhm.
So I felt like we kind of got to, like, pave the way for that, like, you know, I knew that we would be able to report on what this race was like, and so I was really trying to take it in. And, yeah, we saw, like, a beautiful sunrise, the temperature was it was good. It wasn't like, oh, it was so chilly.
Cold. Yeah.
We definitely didn't get that, like, crisp morning air, but it was chilly enough, like, I wore gloves at the start for quite a bit of time, and then, we ran through neighborhoods and people were showing up, like, it wasn't I mean, it's not crowds like a major,
Yeah.
but it's like the fact that there was crowds and people were like we wore our names on our shirts, and so when they shout your name, it really, like even if we had like, they don't have to do that, like, they could wait for the people that they're there to cheer for, and I just think it's so awesome and so fun, and then these little kids in pajamas, they're so cute, like,
So cute.
I always take it in, like, they're out here they've probably been up for hours,
Yeah.
and the parents are like, "Let's go outside, let's get some of this energy out,"
Yeah.
but they're just so cute, they're out there high-fiving, and so when we were going through those, like, it was, like, under these little tunnels on that aqueduct, it was, you kind of went down, like, a little steep incline and then up, and then there was the people at the other side, so when you would go back up that hill, they would be shouting for you, so it really took the pressure off of, like, when your heart rate spikes when you're going up a hill, and that was really cool, so yeah, it was just super neat in that sense because, we've talked about, like, our expectations were pretty low for what this race was
Yeah.
going to have, like, for a turnout, and, I mean, there were so many participants, first of all, but even for crowds, like, it was super awesome, and then when you run into the city, they block off a lane, and so there's all these cars that you're running next to, and they would roll down the window, and they'd, yell, "Good job," or play their music really loud and stuff like that, and sometimes, like, I was by myself for a lot of that race, so I was like,
Yeah.
"Do I look like I need moral support?" Like, they're doing it, but I love that, so, and then we saw our friend at exactly mile 19, that was, like, the area she was in, and that was awesome, just, like, that boost of when you see a familiar face, it's so fun, and, so Shanna passed me at mile 11 or 12 or something, and it was just so fun, it's like For me, that's my normal is seeing Shanna pass me. And, like, I just love that.
Oh my gosh.
Like you're like
But it was hard because, in that moment, I was like, "No, come with me." But I could tell, like, you were in that grind, like, there's something going on. And I mean, you guys, again, she did a back-to-back marathon. She had just PR'd in October, which that takes a lot out of your body. But then on top of that too, like, you didn't have a full build either. Like, you had a very broken build experience. And so there's just so much that goes into that too. And not even to mention, I know we've talked about this on the side, but like with you finishing your period and where you're at in your menstruation cycle, your body is just depleted in different ways. Like there's just so much that goes into
Yeah.
that detail that I wish there was more science behind that like really helped runners to understand like, hey, it's not you thing. It's like it's because you're a female, you
Yeah.
know? So there was that too that she was battling. But when I had passed you, I was like, she's gonna catch me. I know she's gonna catch me. It's gonna be like mile 18. She's gonna get this boost of win because she's an endurance machine. And mile 18, I had plans that I was just gonna kind of settle. And I kind of did in my splits. I kind of did settle just a little bit. And then I really settled the last 3 miles. I was like, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Um, But, yeah, like, it was so cool to be out there matching with somebody too and be like, "We're teammates!" Like, that's
Yeah,
my
yeah, that
teammate.
that is
And
what
I
it felt
and
like.
I can't tell you how many times, like, in the first handful of miles where she was running ahead, I was like, "Guys, that's my teammate. That's my training partner. She's going for this time, and I'm super excited for her." But yeah, to share just a brief moment there, I wish that we could have just been able to, like, carry
I
each other
know.
through. Like, had you
Yeah.
had been on your A game, your A day,
Yep.
honestly, your B day, not your A day, because your A day, you would have still been too far ahead. But your B day, maybe we could have shared a little bit more miles together. But I'm just so glad that you ended up taking the lead like you did, because a lot of people are like, I know some people are giving you like, wow, why didn't you guys run it together? And we had
Mhm.
talked about this. Me and Olivia had both talked about this before going into the race, that like we were both going to do our own race
Mhm.
strategy the way we were supposed to do it, the way we felt we were supposed to do it. And I love that we both encouraged each other on that, because at the end of the day, like I wanted her to get her A goal. I didn't want her to go finish the race with me back there. I wanted her to go for her A goal, and I wanted her to show up and give herself the opportunity and chance, because at the end of the day, running 11, 12, 13 miles at that pace was
Mhm.
still so much better than running no miles at that pace.
Mhm.
And so it was just cool that you did do that. You went out there, you gave yourself a shot, and you were like, okay. And I remember passing you and you were just like, I'm just not feeling, today is just not my day. I'm not feeling good.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, like leading up to the last half of the race, it was very interesting because you're on an aqueduct for a good amount of time, and
Yeah.
on the elevation, it shows like 0 to like maybe
Yeah.
3 to 0.
Yeah.
Like it's very flat for the
Mhm.
most part. There is little pockets of crowds along the way. I feel like there was water stations plenty down that way.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, and then you hop back onto the road, and that's where
Mhm.
Olivia was talking about, like, where the one lane was, like, kinda backed out. So mile 17, you, like, have this, like, surprise downhill, which I wasn't expecting, which
Mhm.
super nice because you could
Yeah.
make a little bit of time again. And then you go 18 to 21, I think it was a little bit of an incline. And then 23 and 24 is when you hit that big hill. Like
Mhm.
24, I think you gain like 75 feet plus
Mhm.
on just that hill. And that was crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. I swear it was like 100, but
I know.
it's fine. You're looking at this hill 24, and it just, you see the top, but you have no idea where you're turning, when you're gonna
Yeah.
turn, because it just feels like it's going on forever. And I
Yeah.
remember just running it and being like, when is it gonna stop?
Yeah.
When are we gonna hit the next mile? Why is 23 taking so long? And yeah, it like so much was going through my head at that point where I was just like, okay, doing kind of starting to do the math. Like I had no idea where my splits were at that point. I hadn't been looking at my watch. The only thing I would look at my watch at was just to see where my heart rate was. So I was like, okay, am I physically like feeling it because my heart rate's high? Or do I need to, or is it like a mental thing? And so it was really refreshing for me to look at my heart rate and be like, okay, I'm in zone where I have been training through this pregnancy, what feels most comfortable. So it's a mental thing right now. Like I just need to focus on this pace, ride it through. But yeah, I was like doing the mental math. I was like, okay, if
Yeah.
I was running 6:45s on these miles, how
Yeah.
slow can I go up these last 3?
Yeah. I
And
know.
I really truly did not care what my number looked like on the clock. I just wanted to I didn't care if it was a 2:59:59. I was gonna
Yep.
still call it a sub 3.
And you as you should, as anybody should. Yes.
But, yeah, I got up to the top of that hill. We were passing half marathoners from this
Yes.
point from the aqueduct on that main road, and then going up that hill, you start passing 10Kers. I
Mhm.
remember looking over to my right and seeing this mom push a stroller
Oh my
up
gosh.
that beast of a hill, and I was like, "If she can do this, like, I
Yeah.
could do this." There's no reason I cannot make up to the top of this hill if she could push a human being in a stroller that's probably 75 pounds.
Oh, that
She
is
was crazy.
that's amazing. That's so impressive. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah,
Oh, tell deeper.
it's cool passing the half marathoners because where they're at in the time, like from when they start to where we are at, these are the people that are this is what I'm talking about, where you see this true grit and
Yes.
it very much feels so incredible. And a lot of them will take the time to cheer for you. And I had
Yeah.
a lot of people that were like marathoner coming through and you know, it's funny. They're like so you run through the botanical garden, the cactus garden.
It was Olivia's favorite part of the race. She was
I
so
just
captivated by those
I was
cactuses.
just like, I was like, wow, look at all of them. No, I was just kind of giggling to myself. So, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I dialed it back at mile 15. Is I like that was my one of my last 6 minute miles. At mile 17, when it went down, I had one more six in there because I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick it up again. And anyways, so at mile 15, I had called my husband and I was like, I think I'm going to just run it in, and I was like, I was making that decision of do I just pull it back? It wasn't like my effort felt crazy hard. It was like something in my mind just switched and so anyways, the race was going by very fast for me because now I'm running at like a pretty comfortable pace and like for a race at home, I don't think like it was like low sevens. I wouldn't call low sevens like super comfortable, but during a race that is pretty comfortable. And so anyway, it's flying by and this person he was cheering for me. He was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then he would pick up the pace and kind of catch up and so he was still cheering and I was like, "Yeah." And so I was like putting a lot of energy into being like, thank you. And then there's like a turnaround and it's at that 26, it's not the actual 26-mile marker, but they put it on the wrong side. And and he was like, "You're done. You're done." And I was like, "Okay, no, I'm not," because my watch says 25.2, like or whatever it said. And so then you run and you loop around and there he is again. And I was just thinking like I poured so much energy into thanking this person for cheering for me. It was like I couldn't get rid of him, but in the nicest way. I couldn't shake him. But yeah, that part is neat because you are running by so many more people, but it makes that part of the race go by crazy fast. So even though you do incurred like this huge hill that next part it's very hilly through that garden it's just lots of like little ups and downs but as you run through that big hill you turn a corner it's flat for a second and then you go back up and there's no like nice downhill that comes after it, but the course itself is fantastic. Like I would say the whole thing went by really fast, especially for us like we train on our bike trail all the time, so there's like a very nice sense of familiarity to it, but also everything being new and like we passed some amusement park and I was like that's crazy. It reminded me of like passing by like SeaWorld or whatever in San Diego. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so fun." Just cuz like I feel like I run over there so much and so there's so many parts of it that were so cool. I was so impressed by the race itself for it being the first year. And I know that you talked about like your race day logistics being very easy and because you were right by the start, which is, I mean, to have race day or start line drop off is awesome. Like that's super unique. I feel like I've never really done that.
Yeah, it definitely was a perk, like, especially having your family there, and, like, my kids are early risers, and so they woke up, and they were up at, like, 4 a.m. with me, and they're like, "You're racing! I want glitter. You're gonna put glitter on? I want glitter. Can you do my hair?" And I was like, "Okay." And so it felt like just a very chill morning, like, normally,
Mhm.
like, I feel like when I did, like, grandma's marathon that was a little bit more stressful because I was like, "Ugh, I'm trying to PR and now I'm like trying to make oatmeal while my kids are awake for them, but for this one, for whatever reason, like it was almost like it eased my mind knowing that they were ready to go. They were in the car. Ella could just go and get them breakfast as soon as he dropped me off and take his time to get down to the finish line and not feel like a rush, get everybody ready. So it was a super smooth morning. And like the fact that he could drop me off like within 15, 20 minutes and I was there and I can warm up right there in the area with
Yeah.
everybody else. And it was super logistically, it is so family friendly
Yeah.
or just like friendly to anybody that like wants a good race turnout, but not the overwhelmingness of the large crowd.
Yes.
I definitely feel like that made the race a little bit less stressful,
Yep,
like
I
pressure
agree.
wise.
Yeah, and, the cost of hotels, I mean, granted, we just came off of paying for Chicago hotels. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "Ooh, I'm gonna see if my mom will cover this one," but, like, no, 'cause I was like, "Oh, I'll just have to Venmo her so that Matt isn't like, 'Oh my gosh, why are you spending thousands on a hotel?'" 'Cause I was
Yeah.
planning to go for 3 nights, so I had gotten the race day wrong from the get-go, which was really funny because I had been talking to our friend on the phone, and I was like, "Yeah, it's so funny, Shanna has the race day wrong. You have to break it to her." And so I was going to the Instagram. I had planned, like, my mom had already booked her flights and everything, and luckily everything worked out. But I was going to the Phoenix Marathon Instagram, and I saw the race date, and I was gonna screenshot it and send it to Shanna, and then I was like, "Oh, I was the one that was wrong." So, luckily, everything was planned and hotels were booked exactly how it was that it worked out, but the cost of the trip itself versus like a very large race, and especially considering Phoenix is a big city, so you do get to run in a big city, which is it is really cool. Like I don't know, there's something about it that when you turn in and it's all the big buildings, it is really fun. And so the cost of everything was very, I will say, very manageable, especially considering that this was like late notice. And I've talked a lot about the impact on doing a world major and or some of these bigger races, the impact financially can have on your family. And so I feel like that was a huge perk and why I would consider doing it again for sure. Because CIM is also, it's not a world major, it's a big race. I will say it's not like crazy expensive, but hotel costs can, they add up. And it's nice to like, and for me, I wanted to stay a day after the race this time because every time I travel for a race, I'm never that fun. I'm always like, who can't do that? Can't walk over here. Don't want to eat that, So I wanted a day that where I would actually say yes to everything. And so, yeah, that was nice. But
Is there like I guess like really quickly because I know you got to go and go pick up Charlotte.
yeah,
Was there ever a point where like I guess better question is somebody that's in your position who has fallen off their eagle beagle seagull at this point, like
yeah.
you had these goals and then once you saw that none of them were going to align with your day today that day, like what would you advise to somebody that is going through that mental like I don't know, shift in their brain, like, do I pull out of the race? Do I walk off? Like, because you have had your
Yeah.
DNF,
Yeah.
and now you're on this side where you're like, do I do it again, or do I just see it through and cross the finish line? What helps you like navigate that experience and like choose or decide when it's time to come off the course? Which by the way, anybody that's listening, like there is no shame in
Mhm.
DNFing. No shame. Again, like you don't owe anybody a finish line. You don't owe them a certain time. You don't owe them an explanation. This is your journey. Like absolutely your journey. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to know I'm curious
Sorry.
to know like what made you decide to continue to finish it versus like where you ran your other marathon and you DNF'd, you pulled out and like
Yep.
what went through your brain there?
So when with OC Marathon, there was something in my mind, like it's crazy too because it still happens. Like when we were about to go on that under that aqueduct, like and you make that first turn, you turn, it's like a very sharp turn and then you go under a tunnel. That was exactly where in OC Marathon that I was like I'm not gonna finish this race." Like, but also a lot of that was, like, it was life circumstances that were happening. I never felt like I wasn't going to hit my goal, but I think that there was a lot of pressure I had been putting on myself, so I think I wonder sometimes how much, like, all of my stress hormones in that moment were just piled very high and decided that my brain was just gonna switch off during that time, like, because 'cause I never thought I'd be that person. I always was like, if I will walk it in if I have to. I will go and get a finish time if I have to. And now I see it so differently. If somebody ever was to be like, I DNF'd, it's like, I'm sure you had a very good reason, especially if you traveled for the race. So with this one, I was like, it did cross my mind for a second. I was like, you could just walk off right here. There's nobody here right now. And you could, but then I was like, logistics, I'd have to get to my car. Uh, and I was like, "Why would you do that?" Like, I love racing. I love running. I'm gonna get a medal at the end of this that my kids are gonna think is so cool. My kids will think I won this. And also, I'm not a quitter. At the end of the day, like, that decision would have been me full on quitting for not really a good reason. When I DNF'd OC marathon, it was something that it really came over my body in such a different way. I wanted to go home. Like, I just genuinely wanted to go home. We were about to move. We had gotten an offer on our house. That meant more to me than any marathon could in that moment. And with this, I felt like there was so many other decisions I could make, and I would have been so disappointed in myself that I didn't just give myself a chance, even to see like what running it in looked like. And so I was on the phone with my husband, and I made a list of all the things that made me so happy in that moment. I was like, my kids are probably eating pancakes right now. They're with their grandma. They never really get to do this, because my mom lives far away. So for them to have that time is so special. My son loves hotels more than anything, like any home that I could ever provide for him. And I was like, and at the end of this, I get to go have a great meal with them. And honestly, they're not going to ask me anything about this race. To them, I won it. And I love running. And I think that was, I think what replayed in my head more was I was like, "Oh, people are gonna think that I didn't get my goal because I did back-to-back races. They're gonna think I didn't get my goal because my foot was hurting." And my foot never bothered me once during the race. It was like when people were asking me about it, I was like, "Oh, I forgot that I had that thing. That's crazy." Which is so nice, thank goodness. But I think at the end of the day, if anybody was in that same situation of like, should I pull back? Why doesn't this feel good? It's like you can also take a couple of miles in the marathon and just reset. That's what I did. I was at mile 15, and then at mile 17 I tried to reset, and I did have a 6:45 in there. I was like, "Oh, I'm not that far off my goal." But I was like, "You know what? That didn't feel that fun." It didn't feel more fun than what I was doing, and at the end of the day, I've already gotten my PR for the year. I had to remind myself, like, let go of your ego and don't be greedy. So, I think, like, if it's getting down to the nitty-gritty and you feel like you're gonna bonk, dial it back, give yourself a couple of miles. I always say take a gel, even if you just took 1.5 miles ago, take a gel and give yourself 3 miles. So much changes over that course. 3 miles in a marathon? Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? You go from 9 miles to 12, and like you're close to the halfway point at that point. So then make a decision, get to that halfway point, take a gel, give yourself another 3 miles. So, um yeah, and then at the end of the day, if you feel like DNFing is the right I'm so sorry, I have never heard that dog bark before, ever. Like, I've never s it is so high pitched. That is a full-grown dog that just barks like a
Crazy.
oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah. Anyway, if it feels like you're going to get injured or you're going to mentally ruin the marathon so that you won't wanna sign up for another one because you just ruined your marathon experience, then then decide to pull out. I do think that's a fair decision, but also DNF, you know when it's time to DNF, and a
Yeah.
DNF is a lot scarier in the moment and the day after, and then, like, for me now, I'm like, I can't even believe that happened to me. I'm so glad it happened to me because now my perspective on them changed 100%. So,
Yeah. a lot more, like, respect level for people that have to go through it.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely. Like, that I understand why people don't walk it in. I totally get it.
yeah.
Like, just pull back and give yourself another shot, even if it's in a couple of weeks, that's what I did, and I'm so glad, you know? But, yeah. He's so cute. I I'm so proud of you. I wish that I would've, like, gotten my phone out and gotten a video of you out there. It was so cool. You are such a powerhouse, and anybody who is, like, so in awe of Shanna, it's for good reason. She is super, super, super fun to watch run, and it's really cool, like, watching her run pregnant too, because it's like, this is what she does. She has babies. No.
Yeah. Was that funny?
Thanks for thinking I'm so funny.
True.
No, she is a runner, and she is a mother runner, and to see her in her element is really it's super, super empowering, but also Shanna's a powerhouse, and so when you see it even peripherally, it makes you just want to be better, and it's really cool, and so you left me in that race, like, feeling so inspired, and I'm so glad, like, there was never a time where, like, you would have dialed it back to run with me. I would have hated that. I would have been like, "Please leave me be," you know? And I also knew I wasn't going to try to hang with you. I think marathons are just way too personal to try to
Yeah.
get someone else's goal.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with how we both did it. I obviously I wish you would have got your A goal that day, but I know
Yeah.
you'll be back out there. That's the coolest part about watching you from behind for all those miles. I was like, she's ready. She's ready for another breakthrough. It's very evident in your body, and it's just now it's respecting the time that your body is going to take to get there, right? And
Yeah.
nobody has a guarantee on any marathon. Like you can do everything right even and you still cannot get your goal. But
Yeah.
that's the best part about racing, right? Like we get to go out there, we get to try it out, we get to make
Yeah.
mistakes and we get to improve it. And then one day out of all the 20,000 shots that we make, that one time will work and it'll feel so worth all the setbacks, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. I think that we both learned so much on that race, and, like,
yeah.
who knew? I mean, it's just funny. Who knew that Phoenix Marathon would be, like, such an impactful day for both of us?
Yes.
But I don't know. At the end of the day, like, a huge positive from it was that I knew I was gonna run it out there with you at
Yeah.
some point, even if it was a split second, but being able to toe that line together, but also when I saw you and I was like, "You did it!" And then I was like, "Baby girl, you did it too!" It was very special. It's so exciting. It's so cool, obviously, to have been on this journey with you the whole time. But yeah, anyways, I have to go get
Yeah.
Charlotte. But on that
Well, thank
sentimental note.
no. Awkward. No, just kidding. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I think this recording went so much better. We got to kind of dive more into each other's experiences versus like, I don't know, how was it for you? Because Olivia and I have talked about this a million times with each
Yeah.
other in like she said, in multiple different groups with different people. So
Mhm.
it was almost like we were repeating it to ourselves, to each other.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, is this boring you? But
Yeah.
this is
I
how
listened back and I was like,
yeah.
"We need to think about" yeah, what it sounds like to someone else.
First time, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you guys have any questions as far as like Olivia's experience of like what that looked like, if you're going through a similar issue with like something popping up in the middle of your build, or you're feeling like not confident with your A goal on the start line, but you're still going to try to go for it, like ask her these questions. Our DM boxes are open. You know, she has her personal page, and then we also have our Miles and Moms podcast page. And then same as well, my DM box is open as well. But we hope that this was helpful. We hope that this encourages anybody that's thinking about a marathon next year too. Like we're not ambassadors for Phoenix. We found it to be a very honest and good, fair course and a great like experience for anybody that's looking for a goal. So
Sorry, the dog was he snuck a doll from Charlotte's. So I was like, "No."
yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you have any questions, please let us know. And of course, obviously for Shanna, if you have any questions about her and racing pregnant and if she would have done anything differently or advice she has or whatever. But all right, you guys, thank you for listening. Feel free to share the pod
Yeah.
and we appreciate you. Feel free to rate it, subscribe, all the fun things, but we'll talk to you later.
Say bye.
Bye.